Well, it's great to see you, Bob. My name is Loretta Depka from the starting point of New Jersey in Haddon Township. I just am thrilled today to have Bob Cardea with us, who is a golf coach of a college team right now. I think he's doing softball and Little League and 1,000 other things, but we'll get that all from him. I think the one thing people need to know, Bob, in all fairness, is that you're a recognized college coach and instructor. You have all kinds of awards to your name, but some of the things that stood out for me in your very effective bio here is that you had one of the most successful golf programs at Rutgers University, where your team made the NCAA finals 8 out of the past 11 years. That's really exciting. And you've won all kinds of coaching awards. So we're very lucky to be here with you. You have a bachelor's in business management, so you get all of it. You also have a full level 3 golf teaching professional for the USGTF. Your family has founded the South Jersey Golf Schools, and you continue to carry that mantra. And we appreciate you spending time with us today and of being a friend to Starting Point. So, Bob, welcome.
Thank you, Loretta. It's a privilege to be here.
And we're going to be talking about applying some of the coaching that you do with your students to our lives. I mean, there's so many life lessons in sports, whether it be team or individual sports. And you just clarified for me. I asked Bob the question right before we started, so I'm going to ask it again. Is golf in college a team sport or an individual sport?
In this part of the country, well, it's a team sport, but it's particularly in this part of the country because the college golf works similar to basketball, like in terms of March Madness. If you win a major conference championship, you get an automatic bid to the NCAAs. Well, a lot of the weighting on schedules goes on strength of schedule and who that you play and whatnot. So the Southern schools have a advantage because they play an all year round tougher type of schedule. So in order for us to make the NCAAs, we have to win a major conference, and you have to do that as a team. Individuals, it's nearly impossible as an individual to make it as a single. So yes, it is heavily weighted towards a team sport in particular this part of the country. It's yeah, I'm sorry.
I think that's going to be what's going to be so much fun about talking, because you can go back and forth between individual and team sports.
Yes.
Because there's lots of lessons to be learned. So where did your passion for coaching and motivating others to be the best they can be?
I've been blessed in a lot of ways. My father was he had his doctorate in education. He was a professional motivational speaker, in addition to being a golf teacher. And I remember as a kid, he used to bring me with him to his workshops, and I got to listen to a lot of the motivational aspect of it. And he coached. He started off his career as a head high school football coach and wrestling coach in Deer Park High School in North Jersey. So all the teams that I played for as a kid, he was my coach and my role model, and a professional motivational speaker and a golf teaching professional. So a lot of the passion I've gotten for it was, I guess it was inbred. So, it was crazy. Our staff, when I was a kid, I was the young associate, the young kid around the golf school. We had one gentleman who was on the PGA Tour. One guy that used to help us out became the eventual president of the PGA of America. We had the PGA Teacher of the Year on our staff. So while I'm, 10 to 17 years old, I'm hanging around with all these guys and my father, and it just, it baked in me coaching, life lessons, and teaching. So that's how I came to where I guess I am now.
Would you, any sport as a coach, I'm thinking about the athletes. Coaches definitely change athletes' lives. in multiple ways. But the other side of it, I'm sure you've had students that have had some kind of impact on you.
Oh, certainly. Yeah. Yeah.
So you want to talk about some of those, or what you think you're, I know I'm asking you two questions here. Maybe what we'll do is start with those amazing athletes that you coached.
You know, it's funny because when I started at Rutgers, oh gosh, a long time ago, it was a part-time job. I was in my 20s at that point, and they called me up and they said, "This is going to be the easiest interview you ever had. If you'll take the job, we want you here." So I took the job basically as almost a resume builder. And then
That's great.
yeah, right. So at about 10 years into it, I was just, basically just doing it as a part-time job. And they came to me and they said, we're gonna make this golf program a full-time job. We're gonna create a golf academy. And what do you need to succeed? So I said, well, first I need something for my guys to play for. So, unbeknownst to me, I didn't really know you weren't supposed to do this. I started calling conference commissioners because in order to get an automatic bid to the NCAAs, you have to be part of a major conference. And in golf, our conference did not have enough teams to be a major conference. So I make phone calls and I finally get in touch with the Northeast Atlantic Conference. And we went up there, did a PowerPoint presentation. They brought us in and we ended up in that conference. Well, at that point, you got to know me. I'm a competitive guy. So I start recruiting and bringing in players and doing what we need to do. And, next thing you know, I mean, we had accumulated a record of something like 123 and 15 and something like that over our first few years. We were, doing very, very, very well with it. But to answer your question, it's a fascinating dynamic because the teams I had the first decade or so I was at Rutgers when I was a part-time coach weren't all that good. But I spent more time teaching. I was teaching players, because the caliber of player that we were getting in was just basically a golf enthusiast who wanted to get better at golf. So I was, teaching them the game of golf. Then when they said it's going to be a full-time job, I always kid around with people. There's two types of coaches at the college level: the ones being hired and the ones being fired. So,
That's great.
Yeah. So I started recruiting and I started bringing in players. And the words Camden and golf are not synonymous. So getting players to buy into playing golf at Rutgers-Camden was you're not going to get the blue chip recruit out of high school for the most part. All right. So I started, as my brother-in-law at the time called me, second chance you. I
like that.
Yeah. I started calling all the guys that it didn't work out at a bigger program somewhere else, and I started building relationships. And one of my favorites is a player named Zach Arsenault, who was just floating out there. It didn't work out where he was going to school, and I called him up, and we just started talking, and he became friends with my oldest son, and he came over, I think, for my son's graduation party, and we started talking. And then one day he showed up when I was giving a tour to another recruit, and from that we built up a relationship. And this is a guy who ended up making the finals of the United States Amateur, which is the biggest amateur tournament on the planet. He made it to Pebble Beach and Spyglass. He missed being on the TV pairings, I think, by 3 strokes total.
Wow.
A really, really impressive run. But yeah, it started with a relationship. But that is more about, to me, the stories that I could tell you about, coaching are more about coaching people, relationships, building, a vision, more than it is about, hey, keep your left arm straight or keep your head down, or, what do you have to do? What kind of vision do you have to get to where you want to be? Yeah, there's plenty of talented people in this world, but those aren't the people that necessarily, if you ever read the book Outliers, it talks about, the guys at the highest IQ they're geniuses, but they work, as an electrician or a postal worker, which is nothing wrong with that. But like the level of innate talent you have doesn't necessarily correlate to your success level. Like we talked about Tom Brady, when you read his not very athletic, not very strong, not very drafted in the 6th round, and he ends up being the greatest of all time. There's a certain innate quality that if positioned or fostered correctly, can lead to greatness for sure.
And that's, to me, when I hear you talk, I'm thinking that's how you coach. You
Mhm.
coach to bring out and I think I mentioned to you that sports for me really changed my life. I was a, private school brat, and then went in 7th grade to public school, where all of a sudden, and now don't forget, Title IX was around the corner. It still wasn't into effect. So, we practice at 6 a.m. outside in winter for basketball. The emergency landing that happened at school, helicopter landed on the hockey field, not the football field. So we had a whole season that we were running through the tire tracks playing field hockey.
Wow.
We got the leftover equipment from the guys for basketball, all of that stuff. But for me, it was, for the first time, understanding how you play sports as a team. It's no longer just about your success. And when I think about those times, I can't help but think about, it's the same thing in business.
Yeah.
It's the same thing in a family structure.
Yep.
It's about the generosity, and we can talk about sportsmanship, but that's just a generous nature of listening and common respect and all of those things. Can you teach them that, Bob, when they come from not that kind of environment?
You know what? Yes, but I would tell you from my perspective, there's a certain it factor to it. I couldn't tell you exactly what it is, but the players that I've had the most success with, and from all kinds of backgrounds, from parents that went to grad school to parents that went to no school, like high school graduates. Like if they buy into the vision. So I think I told you a story earlier. I started to. I have one player specifically in my head who I know, every sport he ever played. When he tried out for Little League, they made him the pitcher. When he tried out for midget football, they made him the quarterback. When he tried out for basketball, he's the leading scorer on the team. I actually think his talent sometimes was a little bit of an anvil, because he was used to showing up and being the best.
Right.
And once he got to my college team, I had a 15-player roster, and my top 11 players were all former #1 high school players. So I remember talking to the #1 player from Camden Catholic at the time. After the first day of tryouts, I'm like, hey, Tommy, how'd it go? And he looked at me and goes, everybody here is good, right? Now, some people look at that and say, oh my God, I'm over my head. Like, I'll never be as good as these guys. And then there's guys like Zach who look at it and say, you know what? I'm not going to let you beat me. And the conversations that Zach and I would sit around, or my assistant Richie and sit around, or Quentin, another one of my great players, we sit around and we talk, and it's we don't lose. Okay. We either win or we learn. That's what we do. And if you take all life experiences, like you said, business, life, relationships, golf, you don't lose. You either learn something from the experience, or you don't, or you win. And then when you look at life in that perspective, things become, a much, more optimistic, brighter, broader universe. That's, Robert, if you don't mind me digressing once into a life story.
No, go ahead.
I read Rich Dad Poor Dad. I don't know if you ever read that book, but it's a Robert Kiyosaki. There was just one thing in that book that just jumped off the page at me. he never asks whether or not he can afford something. He asks himself, what does he have to do to be able to afford this? It's a whole different mindset. Because
Absolutely.
I bought a vacation home a few years back, and I would tell you 2/3 of my friends said to me, Bobby, you're going to go broke doing this. And I said, well, if I do, so be it. You get one chance at life. So I bought it and remodeled it mostly all myself. It's now worth double what I paid for it. And everybody around me is saying to go, man, this place is great.
As they visit you in your
Yeah.
vacation home, right?
Yes. As they come. Yeah. Can we come? Yeah. So like that, to me, that's the vision that in order to be great at anything, it's not, can I afford this? It's what do I have to do to be able to afford this? And that's kind of how I coach. That's kind of how I teach. That's kind of how I try to live is, what do I have to do to make myself successful? Because I believe you can do just about anything when you put your mind to it.
And there's tons of lessons in losing too,
Oh
correct?
yeah. Yes. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
I missed that shot and it's my fault. I mean, we can go into all kinds of codependency and every other
Yeah.
category that we can talk about from here, from starting point. But I mean, losing teaches some invaluable lessons.
Yeah. Yeah. It's what you do with it. It's the old adage. It's probably written in a ton of psychology books, but life isn't what happens to you. It's what you do with that. If things go badly and you learn from it and you can redirect yourself into a better place, that's good. If I'm sure, and I have a lot of friends like this. I think one of them in particular is every time something bad happens, she used to say, "Why does this always happen to me?" Well, you know what? The woe is me is great, but it ain't going to get you anywhere. Like, everybody has problems. It's what you do with those problems. It's talent. Again, it's what you do with that talent.
Well, and there's so much right now about performance psychology, which I have always loved,
Mhm.
but it seems like it used to be focused in sports and maybe some artistic measures, but now it's really catching across the board. Businesses are using it. And certainly a number of our life coaches use it. Motivational speakers use it to try to motivate and engage people. Um, do you practice some of that in your coaching?
Yeah. I absolutely do. So as a team, we typically play 3 or 4 rounds a week on the golf course. But on Wednesday nights, COVID threw a little bit of a wrench at us. But Wednesday nights we call it a practice, but it's actually a team meeting, and we cover multiple areas. Whether it be rules or course psychology or how to play golf courses. Like it's well, I'll jog into that, and then I'll change directions a little bit. But uh, my father's story, I love this story because he when I was a kid, when we go to, my dad had 39 first cousins, big Italian family.
Wow.
Yeah. So, like we would go to various weddings here and there and whatnot. And my father was always the first person up on the dance floor. He would be out there dancing away. And I don't know, maybe I was 13, 14 years old, and the man couldn't dance, by the way. So he would be out there. And I'm like, yeah, Dad, like, can you tone it down a little bit? Just a little embarrassing. And he said to me something of the effect, which I'm not going to forget, is he said, son, the key to life is to dance like there's nobody watching. Right.
That's
So,
right.
well, get it back to golf. Follow me on this. Is some ridiculous statistic, like it's like 97% of all great golfers started before the age of 13. Now, what is that? Is a 13-year or 11-year-old more talented than a 14-year-old? No. It's something awful happens to us right around 13, 14 years old. It's called self-awareness, right?
Okay.
Yeah. So when this morning I was teaching, I had a golf camp with almost 30 kids this morning, and they were all like 8 to 12 years old. And Loretta, they only want to know 2 things, right? An 8-year-old only wants to know 2 things: how far that golf ball goes and he hits the guy and hit the guy driving around in the golf cart. That's all he cares about. Like that. So
It's
they'll swing
great.
and miss, and they'll be like, "Yahoo!" Right now, I teach a 1045 class of adults. Right, here's my impersonation of an adult. Oh my God, I hope nobody's watching, because if I swing and I miss, this is embarrassing. And I can't believe I'm doing this. And they swing at the golf ball, right? They don't dance like there's nobody watching. They swing not to miss. And that's that is a metaphor for golf and a metaphor for life. So now let's go to Jack Nicklaus. I teach this when I coach. They said to Jack Nicklaus, how do you deal with pressure? And one article I remember, actually, I think I saw it on a video. He's like, I don't play golf against people. I play golf against the golf course designer. So while, let's just say, Joe Smith is playing Jack Nicklaus, I got to beat Jack. I got to beat Jack. And like watching what Jack does, watching what he's doing. Jack's playing, and he's like, okay, the golf course designer wanted me to hit the ball left here. So I'm going to hit it in this spot to make the hole. Like, he's not thinking about beating Joe Smith. He's thinking about, what do I got to do to be my own personal best to beat this golf course? It's a whole different way of thinking. It's dance like there's somebody watching.
I love that. I will remember that, Bob.
Thank you.
So let's go back a little bit to the traits that you see in the athletes coming up. For me, it's always been about, I like my team members. I'm going to respect them. We're not going to take the shot when it's better to pass it to the next person.
Yeah.
It's, respect that, maybe they're not the greatest player, but they deserve a chance. And then again, I look at my life where I've applied those lessons, because yes, maybe I had to work a little harder because I wasn't a natural athlete by far. I was really pretty clumsy and already tall at a very young age. So sports for me were, a savior. I could actually be decent at something besides kick the can. Do you remember that, Bob?
No,
You're too young for that.
No,
I was good at that one.
Well versed in kick the can.
But
Yeah.
then I remember golf lessons when they would say, if you're looking at the water, it's going to go in the water. If you're looking at the sand, it's going to go in the sand.
Yeah.
So of course, what would I do? I would look at the water and I look at the sand, because.
Yeah. Right. No. Well. Yeah. It's golf is interesting because there's some moving parts going on there, but the fear of failure in golf is so. Okay, let me put it this way: the three sports I played the longest at a school level were football, wrestling, and golf.
Wow.
Yeah, guess which one I still do?
It's true.
But I get my people together. I'm like, okay, guys, what two of those sports have the greatest similarity? And I get all the time, well, football and wrestling. I'm like, nope. Golf and wrestling have the biggest similarity. And people look at me like I'm on crack. I'm like,
I'm looking at you right now, like you're crazy.
Yeah. Well, okay, follow me on this, right? So you're on the football field. You got 10 other guys on the field. If Loretta's not having her best day, could that team still win? Yeah. Basketball, you got 4 other people on the court with you. If you're not having your best day, can you still win? Yep. Baseball, you got 8 other people on the field with you. Can you still win? Yeah. Golf and wrestling, if you're having a bad day, like you're on an island by yourself.
It's true.
You have to be mentally tougher to wrestle and to play golf, because it's all on you. So if you win that day or lose that day, it's something you have to deal with internally. It's a very interesting dynamic.
That's why I love charity tournaments, because they're usually best ball.
Scramble,
so there's 4 of you. So that's really helpful.
Yes,
and you can look at the water or look at the sand if you want.
Yeah, the 1 in 4 factor in the beer cart. That's what people love about those outings. Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So talk to me about the honor system in golf. That is pretty unique, I think, to other sports.
Love it. they say in golf, pressure doesn't build character; it reveals it, and it's so true. The Bobby Jones story of whatever year that was, early 1900s. He hits the ball off into the left rough, and he's playing with, I believe, Gene Sarazen that day, and he hits it in the rough, and he gets over his golf ball, and then he backs up, and he gets back over his golf ball, and he hits it on the green, makes the birdie putt, and the scorer goes, 3, Mr. Jones, and he goes, nope. He goes, I got a 4. He goes, when I went to put my club down behind the ball, it rolled a little bit. Nobody saw it. He ended up losing the U.S. Open by 1 stroke, right? But that's the expectation that people put on. It's the only major sport where it's basically self-governed. Now with the cameras and the technology, it's a little bit different than it's ever been. But I tell you, it's funny, but I've only had a handful of high school golfers that have come to the college level who are as good as they are in high school as they are in college, because it's a different sport in college, because we actually count all the strokes. It's actually all the penalties. I have zero tolerance. As my guys can tell you, I don't say I don't curse, but I frown upon it, in a big way in a golf setting. And it's the expectation of the individual, at least my expectation on my guys. And when I host college tournaments and I have 8, 10, 15 teams, I'm like, guys, it's on my rule sheet. It's like, don't press this. I'm old school. The expectation is that you guys are sportsmen. So and the golf is unique in that way, because you won't get that speech before a basketball game or a football game for that matter. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, come on, in baseball or even in basketball, you see them act like they were hit really hard and they weren't.
Yeah, they
where's
flop.
the honor in that?
Yes.
There is no honor.
Yes. Yes.
And that goes for life too. I mean, it's the little swing that you take that you need to recognize to make sure that you're being honest with yourself, at least, if not everyone else.
Yeah, it's a hollow victory. If you win when you're cheating, it's a hollow victory.
But see how quickly you said that?
Yeah.
The cheating.
Yeah.
And people don't get the honor system. That is something that needs to be ingrained in us throughout our life.
Yeah.
And particularly in business. I'm going to jump in again on business, where, those little white lies can really add up fast and get you in trouble.
Oh, yeah. Oh, for sure. I mean, I've been coaching at Rutgers for a long time, but the South Jersey Golf Schools, we're the oldest golf school in New Jersey. I mean, we're pushing 50 years going on doing this. And, I was talking to Richie, my assistant, earlier, and you don't exist this long without doing some things right. I mean, it's the way you treat people, the program that you offer, the relationships that you build. Yeah, it's people know who you are and what you're about and what you do. It's there's so many crossovers between golf and life that it's crazy. We're doing that workshop coming up for you guys on the 26th. And we're talking between your staff and my staff, and we're talking about, and there was one of the mock flyers we had was golf is a metaphor for life. I didn't think that would necessarily resonate, because people would wonder what this workshop is actually about. But it is about golf. It is about excellence. But yet, to your point, it's about life.
About life.
Yeah, you want to dance like there's nobody watching. And if you can play golf, this is when you've arrived in golf. You ready? Because this is right back to what you were saying to me 10 minutes ago about the water and about the sand trap. Okay. You've arrived in the sport of golf. You know that you are truly becoming a golfer when you are target aware and not self-aware.
Okay.
Yeah. When you think to yourself, here's my golf ball, it needs to go there. How do I do it? What club do I hit? What's the wind? What's the situation? And you're visualizing what you need to do with that golf ball, and not, oh my God, I'm 2 strokes down to Fred, or oh my God, the guy over there's watching me, or oh, if I miss this shot, we lose. That's not, there's a song, I forget, I think it's Chris Stapleton, but it's nobody wins afraid of losing. I love that lyric.
That's true.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, there's two words we haven't talked about, and probably the most important words, at least to apply to life lessons, and that's really focus and discipline.
Mm.
Most people look at discipline as a dirty word. We know
Mm-hmm.
that.
Mm-hmm.
And focus is fleeting sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
So when
Yeah.
we come to not only the game of golf, but life, where's your wisdom in following those through?
I love the question because I go in a couple different directions with this. So when we're doing this workshop on the 26th, we're bringing in a yoga expert, a meditation expert, a dietary expert, again, to position ourselves to play the best that we can play in golf and in life. So I'm nuts. I can tell you right now, I've started every workout I've done since 1991. Like I have a calendar
Wow.
yeah. So I work out, I don't know, 6, 7 days a week. And I've probably always had, I don't know, 5 pounds that I've always want to lose over the years and years. And Zach Arsenault I was talking about earlier, when we were on the road traveling, like I work out with the players in the weight room, and Zach's like, "Oh, coach, you're in pretty good shape." I'm like, "Yeah." I'm like, I said, if I could just nail my diet down, I'd be in phenomenal shape. And he said, "Coach, you've been saying that for as long as I've known you."
Oh, the brat.
But you know what? It's so damn true. Like for a guy who has as much discipline as doing what I do, to run my own business, to work out 7 days a week, like you figure I could skip the cheeseburger every once in a while, right? That's yeah. It's so when I started my workouts years ago, here's the discipline factor. So I'm going to go discipline with. How about this? Let me ask you this question first, and then I'll go into the rest of the story. Does practice make perfect?
I would like to say yes, but no.
Right, correct. And this is how I define that. So when I started working out, I chart my workouts every single day, and I got instantaneous results over a period of time. So I decided, you know what, I'm going to put that same logic to my golf game. Okay. So I started charting my golf workouts, made a diary of it. So, when I'm in my 20s and my 30s, if I had only 30 minutes to work out, I did a high intensity workout, big sweat, I got out there, I felt great. Okay. Now do that to golf. So, I'm a sociable, talkative person, as you can tell. So let's say, hey, my buddies are like, hey, we're going out on Friday night to the PJ Wheelahans, we're going to be there at 6. I'm looking at my clock and it's 4:30. I'm like, oh my God, I promised myself I'm going to hit 45 golf balls a day. So I went to the range, I hit 45 golf balls, and then I wrote down practice, check. My golf game got worse, right? Because
wow.
it's not the quantity of which you practice that matters. It's the quality of practice that matters. So I tell people that the studies say 60 times a day for 21 straight days ingrains a new habit. So most people come to the driving range. We're down at Big Swing in Washington Township. They say, walk to the driving range window with a driver, and they say large bucket, which is roughly about 115, 120 golf balls. So if you take one practice swing in between that, that's 240 shots. Okay. Well,
sounds like my golf game. Sorry.
Well, here's a stat for you. 44% of all your shots in golf are putts. The average golfer shoots about 100. Yes. The average golfer shoots about 100. So figure you're pushing 50% of your shots are putts. So if you're hitting 250 golf balls, let's just say 2 large buckets. Well, yeah, you're playing the equivalent of God knows how many rounds of golf, right? I tell people I'd rather have you hit a small bucket with absolute attention and intention into every rep. So practice doesn't make perfect. Perfect practice makes perfect. You need to practice the right things. You need to position yourself in such a manner that if you're going to practice, you're going to maximize that time. It's the quality of practice as opposed to the quantity of practice that matters.
It's funny you're saying that because I am so disciplined through summertime. I swim in the morning and every morning, and then I swim maybe 3 times at night as well. But because I'm old now, I can't, my limbs need the water. But I guess what I'm saying is I am so disciplined through the summer because I live for the pool. It
Mhm.
must be the Pisces in me. But winter, it's so hard for me to work out, which is just laziness. I know
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Well, yeah. That's the discipline. It's also great because, discipline to me, because people are like, oh, you work out every day, you must love working out. And there are probably 20% of the days I love working out. The other 80%, what? I'll tell you 40% of those, okay, I'm here, I'm warm, I'm good, I'm going. And the other 40%, it's like, oh my God, like, can I do this today? But the difference is, between, that is the discipline of the situation. That is, if you want to get to a certain point, if you want to get to where someone is somewhere else you've never been, you got to be prepared to do what others aren't going to do. You need to be able to do when you don't feel like it. That's what discipline is to me, is the ability to carry something through. Because, if you're waiting in your life to feel like doing it, I'm going to start my own business someday. I'm going to start working out tomorrow. I'm going to start eating better tomorrow. Like, it's like in Rocky, there is no tomorrow. You either do or you don't do.
And all the time management books will push you into do the task that you don't want to do first thing to get
Yep.
rid of it.
Yep.
Celebrate that you've completed and have a great day.
Yeah. 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 Oh God, what book was that? I like to read a lot, but there was God, a guy came into one of the auto manufacturers, and he's pitching high performance, and he went through his whole presentation. Let's just say it was Henry Ford. He's like, well, this is all great, but this is stuff we've all heard before. And the guy's like, all right, well, if I guarantee I could increase your production by 50% in the next 6 months, what would you say? And he's like, well, what would you charge for that? And he's like, I don't know, you give me a number. So the guy took the piece of paper and said, this is what you're going to do. List, I believe it's the 6 greatest things you need to get done in order. Okay. 1 through 6, most important. And each one of those days, address 1 first through 6. And then once you get through an item, put another item on the list. Prioritize each day, 1 through 6, what needs to get done. And it's something like 6 months later, that auto would say it was Henry Ford, I can't remember, sent the guy a check for like $200,000, saying, "Oh my God, like that
Wow.
works." Yeah, yeah, that works. Yeah, but that's
And
what
that's
people.
discipline.
Yes, that's to do what. Yeah, I was in a relationship a while ago with a person who always was like always, you know, cleaning their room, right? Because that gave them comfort to do that, right? But you're not addressing what you need to address. You're not addressing, I can make suggestions all day long and tell you, hey, you should do this, this, and this. But that's difficult for people to do what's hard. If you want your life to be easy, do what's hard. If you want your life to be hard, do what's easy. That's it. That's the way I view things.
I can see why you're a wonderful coach. Uh, there are simple ways of looking at life. And yes, it may be a sport, but it is life, and that's the piece that I hope we're not losing that in some of the professional teams.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
you can watch some of the athletes and you see just pure joy as they play or succeed, and such pain when they lose.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But there's others that that they're just there for the money.
Yeah. But that's yeah. It's the amounts of money. We kid around. I remember Tom Kite, the professional golfer.
Yes,
Yeah. So he was the first golfer on the PGA Tour, I believe, was in, like, let's say, the mid 1980s, that won $1 million in 1 year. And everyone's like, wow, that's crazy. And then you look at some of these tournaments now, and they win 3 million for winning one tournament. Like
it
it's
is amazing.
yeah,
And,
yeah.
and the athletes before the money, they designed golf courses, didn't they, to subsidize their income?
Yeah. There's
I
yeah.
mean,
Well,
Nicholson has how many courses?
Phil's an interesting cat. Phil says a lot of dumb things, but I still kind of like Phil. Yeah, yeah.
It's an
Um,
amazing sport.
Yeah.
Okay, so I could talk to you forever, Bob. Maybe
Mm,
we need to do a part two.
yeah.
Um,
Love to.
but talk about July 26th here at Starting Point.
Okay, so it's interesting. A mutual friend of ours initially told me about Starting Point, and you know, golf is a metaphor for life. I come from a very unique background where my father was a professional motivational speaker, and yet, like I've been to. I mean, God, you check my bio out. Like I've done a lot with this sport, and there's a famous golf psychologist, Dr. Bob Rotella. His most famous book is Golf is Not a Game of Perfect. And then he went on to write a book called Life is Not a Game of Perfect. And I thought to myself, gee, it's like this is kind of like what I feel. I feel that the transference of you know life and playing great golf is a very similar thing. So I wanted to come out to you guys and talk to people about the other, let's just say the other 90% of the game. People come in for golf club fittings and they say,
Mm-hmm.
I want to be fit for clubs. And like, Bob, what do you think about fitting? Well, I used to make golf clubs. I'm like, okay. I'm like, it's not the arrow, it's the Indian. Like you have to have the first 90% of now again, equipment being properly fit is big for that last 10% of the game. But if you don't have it going in, right? Golf, yeah. The preparation, if you really want to look at golf, if you wanted to be great at golf, 65% of your shots are less than 100 yards, right? So what would you spend if you really wanted to lower your golf score? Where would you spend your time,
Well,
right?
wait a minute, Bob. I should be great.
I
Sorry, didn't mean
that,
to
that's
interrupt.
I could quote. So you want this number for you? Check this out, right? So there's nobody on the planet that makes more than 20% of their putts on a regular basis outside of 8 feet. Nobody.
Okay.
So outside of 8 feet, what Dave Pelz calls the golden eight. So if you are within 100 yards of the hole and you can hit your shot within 8 feet of the hole, your score will go down exponentially.
Hmm.
But how many people work on that shot? I tell you what, the golf academy that we're at right now, we don't even have I teach at a local golf course also where we do all our short game stuff. Um, you know, the driving range we're at right doesn't even have a putting green. Yet 65% of shots.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
That is
And people don't
amazing.
realize that the range is packed every night. People come in like, hitting the ball, hitting the ball, hitting the ball. But if you truly want to be great, so here's the workshop, right? What can I do, right? Mentally, meditation, physically, yoga, stretching, get your body in the right condition. Diet, like, what spikes your sugar, what doesn't spike your sugar? Like, what things can you eat and do? And then how do you think around the golf course? Now we're going to talk some about mechanics, because 80% of what you do in golf is grip, stance, posture. I don't want to underemphasize that, like, that's important. But all the other stuff to be truly great never gets talked about. Never gets talked about. So we wanted to take this opportunity to say, if you really want to be great at this, and you can apply it to your life, you can apply it to your business, right? You can apply it to a relationship. Mutual friend of ours saying difficult conversations are tough to have, but like if you can get good at the areas that are hard, your life will become easier.
And the one thing we didn't talk about that also is great in golf is that if you're smart enough to choose a great court partner, it's a great it's a great adventure with a friend.
Yes.
And I
Well,
think
yeah.
sometimes we forget that. And then if the rest of your foursome is also gracious, I mean, I took up golf to be with my friends,
Yeah.
not because I wanted to chase a little white ball with a stick, because I did
Well,
that in field hockey.
yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But it really is a place to socialize and to be with the people that you like.
Relationships, like it's a great couples activity that you can, like, you can travel, see some beautiful places. Business, you could get me talking all day, Loretta, but when my first job outside my family, I worked at a golf course, and one day I was at the head pro there, was like, Bobby, I know you need to go pick up Mike or something like that. I can't remember his name, but I went to pick up Mike, and Mike was the mayor. right?
Wow.
And then I went to play golf with Mike, an attorney, and the chief of police and myself. Now I was 17 years old. Now, in what world, right, does a 17-year-old get to play with these guys? Well, they were doing their little gambling thing, and I was good at golf. So, like, you know, I got all these PBA cards and like all they can advise. Like, I was a boy. Like, the
Sure.
relationships that golf is a great networking tool for business. It's a great thing for relationships for people, because, like you said, we just started a ladies golf league over at Westwood. We did a ladies' night there one night. We sold out at 80 women there. It was great. They went on to form their own golf league, and now they're all friendship. Like, every time I see the ladies, like, hey, Bobby, we do a free clinic for them second Tuesday of the month. Um, I love the relationships, and you're right. All of them, they're all now good friends. They go out and play together. They do activities together. Yeah, this sport is truly unique. It's a metaphor for sure.
And it allows you to play against yourself.
Yeah. Oh,
I know
yeah.
you're saying play against the course, but I don't think like that. I
Yeah.
like to play against myself, and then I don't have to be mad at my friend because we're laughing because
Yeah.
we're so bad. It's fun.
We're going to work on this, Loretta, okay? You and I.
Okay, I think so, Bob. I think I need some lessons.
All I ask is when you're rich and famous, I get 10%. That's all.
Okay, that's fair. Deal. I can't leave my starting point line.
I love it.
Well, Bob, thank you so much for joining us. July 26th.
July 26th. It's. I guess you said we're doing like light refreshments and we'll hand out materials, and it's only $50 for an hour and a half. I mean, you have a meditation, dietitian, yoga, golf. I mean, it's to me, we priced it at a point where I think it's
a
the
deal.
value that you're getting is great. Yeah.
I think it will be great.
Yeah.
All right. If you need more information, you can reach out to me via email. It's very simple. It's ldepka@startingpoint.org. You can visit our website, startingpoint.org, and get all the information.
Mhm.
And we hope to see you there. And Bob, thank you so very much.
You're welcome.
This
You're
was
welcome.
fun.
This was awesome. It's also on Eventbrite and on the South Jersey Golf School's Facebook page too, if it's easier for anybody to do.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So whatever you need, Loretta, I'm looking forward to working with you, my dear.
And this is going to be a blast.
Yes,
Thank
we're gonna have a
you
lot of fun.
so much, Bob.
Yep. God bless.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.